Hi everyone, and thank you for joining this CSR talk on impact sourcing. My name is Clementine Gauthier. I'm heading Global Corporate Social Responsibility at TP, and I'm very happy today to be joined by three amazing ladies. Lynn Geland, who is Director of Impact Sourcing and Skill Development at TP South Africa. Andrea Herrera, Strategy Director at TP Mexico. And Bernice Tonino, who is ESG Manager at TP Portugal. Hi, and thank you for joining me today to this insightful session on impact sourcing. So impact sourcing, as you may know, is really a proactive initiative that aims at providing long-term jobs to people with different kinds of vulnerabilities. For example, people who have been long-term unemployed, people from minorities, people with disabilities, etc. So to get a bit of context, I would like to start with a question to my guest today. How do you feel that impact sourcing is contributing to social and economic development? Lynn, maybe if you want to start?
Hi, everyone. Yes, so if I were to look at the South African context, our biggest challenge right now is that we have unemployment of up to 33%, of which 56% of that is youth unemployment. So a part of what we are doing is aiming to get those youth skilled and into the world of work, which then automatically impacts their financial stability and starts to create stability within their communities as well, and just starts to spill over in terms of encouraging individuals from those communities to get into the world of work and to show them there's a path to get into it. So it does that for us in a big way, but it also speaks to inclusivity in a lot of ways where, as an example, the conundrum you always face is if I want to get a job, I need to have experience. But if I need a job to get experience and I need experience to get a job. So it becomes that sort of hamster wheel that our youth are caught up in. And we decided to focus on this because we have such a large portion of our youth who do not have work experience. And because of that, they are excluded to a large degree from the labor market. So that's the contribution I believe that we make in terms of, number one, social impact, but also in terms of business impact.
That makes great sense, Lynn. Thank you for that insight. Is Portugal a similar context, Bernice, or what would be your perspective on social and economic development impact in Portugal context?
Yes, thank you. Well, even though Portugal may be a smaller country than South Africa, for example, we do see that there are regional disparities. So in more rural areas, we can see a lower GDP per capita. And that is why, for example, in Portugal, we also have sites that are both in the larger cities, but also in the rural areas. And what we see by having job opportunities in the rural areas, we can then uplift the communities there and uplift the families there economically. But it also strengthens the community there. So by not only having job opportunities, we also bring here volunteering activities, partnerships with local organizations, and that also supports the full community.
Yeah, and we clearly see from that example that it's really an ecosystem interconnected with all partners, and that truly makes the impact, right?
So, Bernice, I absolutely love that take because I agree with you. I think it has to be an ecosystem. We cannot operate if we want to make a true social impact as a silo. And I think it's the case in our space as well. We've got to rely on. I always say our superpower in impact sourcing is our ability to create networks and to create really meaningful partnerships within our communities, with local governments, with educational institutions, in order to really create sound, sustainable solutions that eventually will, result in a measurable, really meaningful impact in our communities and uplift them in many ways.
What about in Mexico, Andrea? Could you provide your perspective as well?
Sure, I completely agree with everything that was just said. But to give you a bit of context, in Mexico, we currently have around 32 million of workers in the informal sector and a 2.5% unemployment rate. So for us, it is key towards the social and economic development of the communities and the country to be able to change that by providing opportunities to these communities. And what we notice is we don't only change the lives of the individuals and their families, but we stimulate for them to get into the formal workforce, into the financial system, and that's how you start doing a systematic change in these communities.
Thank you. And what I really hear from you all is what is important is interconnection, building ecosystem, building networking, and really providing long-term, also decent and formal jobs. That's really key to communities who would have very limited opportunities otherwise, such as young people who don't necessarily have an opportunity to start their career, people living in more remote areas, etc. So it's very insightful to see how all of that interconnects to empower the local communities. If we take a different side of it, how can impact sourcing contribute also to the company's culture? Maybe if we stay in Mexico, Andrea, what would be your view?
Well, for the company culture, I really believe that employees feel fully motivated and engaged when you feel like that what you are doing is making a true difference in the world. So I think that's like the most purpose-driven objective of impact sourcing. And also, of course, acquiring diversity from different locations, backgrounds, and groups, especially providing opportunities to disadvantaged groups, not only the employment, but career development and to be their true selves. I think that's the most that you can give to any person, to you, to find a meaning in what you're doing. So that absolutely drives a purpose-driven culture. And what I have found is that this culture is contagious, and we start attracting and collaborating with other organizations, partners, clients into building up in this purpose.
Do you experience the same, Lynn? I see you nodding.
Yeah. No, 1,000,000%. So if you consider that, I'm not sure how it is in many of the other geos, but most of our employees generally do come from disadvantaged backgrounds and poverty. So when they have a chance to pay it forward, they embrace it with their whole hearts. And that keeps them engaged and they love paying it forward. So I think that gives them a sense of purpose, gives them a sense of involvement. They understand that our company is not just about saying things or lip service, but it's the actual, what are we physically doing? How are we putting that vision into actions, and that they can be a part of it really means a lot to them.
Bernice, do you agree as well with this inspirational and contagious culture that is driven by impact sourcing?
Absolutely. And NTP in Portugal has a unique advantage that I usually call a privilege, because we are a multilingual hub. So that means that around 140 different nationalities come together to work with us. And that brings massive opportunities for people coming from abroad with different cultures and all working together in the same space. And I wanted to highlight specifically a group of refugees. So we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, people that want to come to Portugal by choice, but also people that are fleeing from their home country and that find a safe space to live and work in Portugal. And we have this year participated in a national campaign called Break the Stigma. And we really highlighted their myths about migrants and how we can correct those misconceptions. For example, that migrants are only having roles of basic contributions, while actually what we see in TP is that we're seeing migrant employees excelling in strategic leadership, high-skilled roles. And that shows that it is good for business, right? It is not just the right thing to do for community, but it's also good for our business to harness all those different skills and all those different talents to really make sure that we serve our clients in the best way possible.
Thank you. As you all know, for sure, TP has been a signatory since 2011 of the UN Global Compact. And as such, we really commit to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. How does impact sourcing particularly align with these broader sustainability goals? Bernice, maybe if you want to start.
Yes, well, we think firstly of offering decent work and economic growth. We're talking here about reducing inequalities in different geographies in different ways. But I also wanted to highlight gender equity. And I just spoke, for example, about refugees. And what we're seeing that in TP in Portugal, our overall workforce has over 50% of women working with us. But we see the same percentage of over 50% of refugees working with us. And those are refugees from Europe, those are refugees from Africa, from the Middle East. And we want to make sure that we do offer those decent work and economic growth, the reduced inequalities, but also keep our focus on gender equality in our overall workforce and in our impact sourcing efforts.
Lynn, what about South Africa?
I think if I can step in there as well, yes, I can concur 1,000,000% in terms of the gender equality. In South Africa, the greatest portion of the unemployed population, and I'm not just saying unemployed, but also underemployed, sits in our female population. So it is really critical that we can get them into the world of work so that they can become independent financially going forward. But in addition, for us, it's also quite a big task to include people with disabilities. So we do split our efforts a little bit to include people with disabilities who otherwise, again, would be struggling to get into the world of work. We give them opportunities to do, many programs where whether they end up being employed by ourselves or whether they end up being employed by other employers, we've given them a year to hone the skills, be trained, and become employable in the market. And they are such an underrated demographic in society. People will think people with disabilities cannot function to the same degree as we can, whether it is from a physical or from a mental capacity point of view. And that certainly can be, it is a myth that needs to be dispelled of, because there's a large portion of them that are incredibly functional in the world of work. We just need to learn, how do we teach them the skills, and how do we accommodate our spaces in order to enable them to be the best version of themselves. And I also want to touch from a South African point of view, I have to touch on education as well, so quality education. So in South Africa, we do focus a lot on not just unemployed individuals, but we look at school level individuals. Our challenge is, it seems amazing that, they will say at high school we had a 98% pass rate of graduates. But the reality is, out of everybody that starts school, less than 50% actually make it to that end goal. And as you track it back, the problem becomes bigger and more what's the word, integrated in how the communities are structured, where young people are dropping out of school early in order to get jobs or to fall into a line of poverty, substance abuse, becoming members of gangs, and we want to break that cycle. So it's important that we do focus on the quality of education, which is why we are working with the schools and with the local universities and colleges as well, to build programs that can show them, here's an incentive to complete your education and to get into the world of work.
Very interesting and really, really insightful. Thank you, Lynn. Andrea, in Mexico, could you share some highlights?
Yes, I fully align with what Lynn and Bernice just mentioned. I think impact sourcing becomes a strategic lever for advancing sustainability and a systemic change, as I have mentioned. So it aligns to decent work and economic growth, reduced inequality, gender equality, but also one that I would add is the partnership for goals in the matter that we do need to make these alliances to make a true difference and an impactful difference, sourcing and including all of the vulnerable groups that we have out there.
That's very interesting what you're saying, Andrea, because those kind of partnerships also can help bring people together and share their different backgrounds and share their cultures, for example, by initiatives around food or cooking and also storytelling. And that really helps the cross-cultural understanding and also strengthening, again, the workplace in terms of performance and in terms of social cohesion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that also strengthens employee engagement in the end, which is mutual benefits for business, right? It's good for communities, right, for business too. So that's make the the success of it. And now that we've set up the stage, I would like to dig in a bit more in each of your great initiatives. So if we start, for example, with Lynn in South Africa, TP in South Africa has developed 10 skills development programs, each tailored to specific objectives and target groups. So Lynn, I'm wondering what motivated in the first place the launch of this impact sourcing and skills development portfolio?
Uh, if I was to look back to about 2.5, 3 years ago, when we launched, our idea was let's train people and get them jobs. And that was okay for what it was. But we found out that we had attrition was very high, learners were struggling, and we decided to pull up the handbrake a little bit and go, let's look at what is the bigger picture, what are we missing? And we had to backtrack again, like I mentioned before, the fact that we have there is no shortage of talent in our youth. There is no shortage of talent. But what tends to happen is we have a sort of a failure from a socioeconomic point of view where individuals will complete their high school or maybe not complete their high school, but they will then fall into a trap of becoming reliant on social grants. And in South Africa, if you are an unemployed youth for 3 years, you become a part of a really terrible category. And it's literally a recognized category which is called disillusioned youth. And if you're not employed within those first 3 years, you tend to become disillusioned and then fall into the system of social grants and not finding a work. And then reciprocating that behavior with people around you, your family, your kids, etc. So we took a step back and we had a look at how is this impacting our individuals at a junior school level? How are they being impacted at a secondary school level? How are they being impacted at a tertiary level? How does all of that, plus the community circumstance, impact them getting into the world of work? And we had to think about a lot of things. One being, not everybody has the same degree of education. So we started building programs that addressed that. It was a bridge. How do we bridge the gap to get them workplace ready, which is simple enough to do? But then you also have individuals with a really advanced digital or technical skill. And we had to look at how do we bring on a program that addresses their digital capability. And as a result, we created our Digital Skills Academy. You also have individuals that are, by the way, they are suited for our environment, but they're not necessarily suited for an agent role. So it was, let's create our non-agent program, which takes from street to seat individuals into support roles, such as in WFM or in recruitment or in HR. So that was our motivation. So how do we tackle all of that? But outside of launching those 10 programs, what are we giving them in addition to all of that that will support their growth and set them up for success? So as an example, we took Maslow's hierarchy of needs and we put that around each of our programs, in the sense that a part of what we do is we do sign a contract with the individuals from day one, whether they are placed with a client or not. We do already, we put the pressure on ourselves to find them meaningful employment. We pay them a stipend from the beginning so that they can pay the cost of their travel and their groceries with their families. We provide them with meals during the day, which it's a bit of a heartbreaking moment for us because often, they are so grateful for the food that they've gotten in the day while they're in the classrooms with us, or they'll take the food home to go and feed their children. We provide them with mental health counseling as well, because a lot of our individuals come through severely traumatized backgrounds, and some of the stories will really they will tear you up inside when you see what they're dealing with in terms of violence. What they face as they're traveling into the workplace is so traumatic on its own. So we provided as much as we can to give them a holistic solution or support solution. And once that was in place, we then started noticing now people are starting to shine. Now people are starting to complete their programs and get into the business. And that then gave us a better idea of what are the skills that we can now bring on board. We have individuals sitting in our program, we have university degrees, they have degrees in maths and science and statistics and can still not get a work. So we built the Digital Skills Academy to enable them, for example, to go into the world of AI, into the world of MI, data analytics, data science, projects, which has been incredibly successful. I mean, we're sporting what a 98% placement rate of all of the learners that we bring into our program. But that has really been an eye opener just to see what they are capable of. the schools, the programs we run with the schools, we've seen now that since running these programs with the schools, kids are actually starting to graduate from high school. They are now motivated, they are driven. There's a beacon of hope for them at the end of that, because at the end of that, teleperformance is going to work with you even further to help you get into the world of work. So it was literally just about looking at, there are so many points, there are so many hurdles that our youth face. How do we identify what they are? And how do we determine relevant and appropriate programs that they can follow in order to get into the world of work, but also to excel and to create career paths rather than just getting a job?
And I believe you'd really monitor the success of your programs and tailor it and adapt it further depending on the outcomes. What measurable outcomes have you been observing so far for participants? If you could share a few examples.
Sure. No, it's a couple of stats that I'm incredibly proud of. So we literally have 99% of our learners complete all their programs. We have seen out of those, 98% of them will be absorbed into our business, and not just into, like I'm saying, agent roles, but into advanced roles as well. We've also seen where we've done a couple of case studies to look at individuals that were placed with our clients, where we measured learners that come out of our space at a 6-month mark versus tenured agents. And we could see they were literally meeting, and in some cases exceeding, certain targets in 6 months already, where they were beating our tenured staff with experience. So that is how we measure it. We measure in terms of what is the attrition, and our attrition, guys, I'm so proud, is sitting at 0.85% at the moment. Even in some of our toughest campaigns, we've increased our absorption with clients to 36%, whereas a couple of 2 years ago, clients were very apprehensive. They wanted people with experience. They were a little bit nervous, and we had to show them these individuals are so hungry. So they are so hungry to grow. They are so grateful for the jobs that they've received that they will give it 125% of their energy. So we've been able to show through our KPIs, through our tenure, even through our promotions, these individuals are growing, they are being promoted. We measure, by the way, the earning potential. So as they've been promoted and progressed in the business, how is the earning potential increased over the years? Because that makes a big difference to their families and to their communities. And it also stimulates them to go into the communities. They are our best ambassadors at the moment. They attract the same kind of talent now into our space. So we look at all of those things in a nutshell, which is our KPIs, our attrition, the performance stats. We look at, how are they growing in the business? We look at how satisfied are they within the business, and how well are they sort of sharing and selling our business to others in their communities.
Thank you, Lynn. I will now turn to Andrea to know more about Mexico, where there is a really strong focus on partnership. TP in Mexico is partnering with local governments, right, to hire people from disadvantaged communities. So, Andrea, could you elaborate a bit on how these partnerships connect you with expanded talent pools?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we all know, when the pandemic started, we all went and started working from home, and it was 90% of our people probably working from home, but mostly in cities where we operated, where we had physical presence. So in Mexico, we have 32 states. It's a very large territory. So we had only physical presence, and we have physical presence in 5 states. However, when we defined the cloud campus as our work at home model that was here to stay, we opened the hiring for all of the states. And we started analyzing and identifying certain patterns, performance patterns, as I think Bernice have mentioned constantly, the benefits that we have seen in the performance of people from impact sourcing, but also from working from home in different communities with disadvantaged groups has been outstanding to see. So what started happening is we were just hiring like from every state. We are still hiring from every state in general. However, governments started to approach us, and that's when the partnerships become so crucial, because we had jobs to offer for a lot of people, but then the government and with their insights and with certain NGOs, they had insight on which communities which benefit the most from this type of jobs that they know we were offering. So that's when they started sharing, like, we have this state, this particular community, where we would like for you to come and let the people know what you do and actually promote the TP jobs and the quality of life that they can give access to. So we started doing job fairs. Even the government was sponsoring everything from the events, and we just went there and showcased what we do and had very successful job fairs. But then also we started partnering with NGOs for specific vulnerable groups across different states. And that's how we have been able to have this outreach. We are currently having people in more than 530 communities in Mexico. And of course, we provide everything they need to have workplace accommodations, so the performance is completely lean and has significant benefits for our clients. So for instance, absenteeism in this model, which we call M extended, specifically people that are working from home where there are no physical locations, that group has 40% less absenteeism and 15% less turnover. So that we have seen the business improvement. We have seen the government giving us employment information on how this trend is supporting the development of that particular community. And yes, and this is something that we are continuing to build. We started currently we have very strong partnerships with 4 particular states, but as I mentioned, we are 32 states, and I think there's still a lot to do out there.
And among those partnerships, you also have an amazing program to recruit women who are victims of violence. Could you provide us with more details on your efforts on that?
Yes, I think to me that was a very impactful part of doing these type of collaborations. While we were working with the government on offering jobs to these different communities I've mentioned, they also, we started working particular with Jalisco State, which is where I am located, with the Ministry of Substantive Equality Between Men and Women. That's the translation of CSEM. So when we started working with them, they basically did a follow-up for 3 months in our processes and analysis to give us a certification of a local certification that's not now applied to all Mexico. So when they saw the type of jobs that we could offer, they saw an opportunity for us to connect with several NGOs and provide a specific platform for women that have been victims of violence. So we have this permanent platform where they always see what job postings are available where they can apply. But we also did a lot of work on sharing the type of job that they could access to, the career development opportunities. But not only that, even I think Lynn is very similar, of course, not compared to the amazing job that you are already very consolidated in South Africa. But even if they are not able at the time to join us, we support with skills development. So our training department, learning and development department creates programs as volunteers, TP volunteering. They create certain modules where we support them with the skill up. So that definitely helps them feel ready to be independent and to see that there's opportunities and chances and a better life for each of these women out there. So that's in a very nutshell what we are doing right now.
And you also collaborate with multiple clients on impact sourcing to recruit, train, retain talent, including people with disabilities, right?
Exactly. Yes, we are very proud of that program. That program has been our star for several years now. We have one particular client that's very strong on that matter. That was the leader or the trailblazer to follow to do those type of practices with other clients. So our target was with the client to hire 10% of people with disability on their workforce. And we are now replicating that with other clients. It can be people with disabilities. It can be people from the LGBTQ plus community. It can be women under violent situations. So we are expanding those programs with different clients according to the alignment that we have with the values and priorities for each of these clients, of course. So we have that very successful program, and to me, I'm thrilled to see that I have an opportunity to interact a lot with potential clients that are coming to evaluate TP as a partner. And this is increasingly important for them, that we have this type of collaborations where creating jobs for us means creating a positive social impact in the communities where they will select their operations. So I think that is a key part of it. And aside of the percentage of people from a certain group, we are also we have reached more than 15,000 people through skills enhancement workshops, again by TP volunteers that provide these trainings or upskilling sessions for people that are needing to start on the workforce. And most of them, or a lot of successful cases, eventually join TP. Once they are ready to take a position with us, they can do that. So yes, I think that's the most rewarding feeling when you see the results and the testimonials of certain cases and clients of how this impact sourcing is a win-win situation for the business, for the people, for the communities.
Thank you, and I'm sure it resonates for Bernice at TP in Portugal. Bernice, you have developed also proactive programs aiming at hiring individuals with disabilities, also refugees, as you were mentioning at the beginning of the talk. Could you explain a bit what measures you have implemented to support them?
Yes, we make sure that we have the opportunity to contribute to people feeling at home when they are in Portugal and when they are working at TP. And that means that we are active in multiple stages of the employee life cycle. So it begins with the attraction of people that may not be included in a standardized form of hiring and a standardized strategy for hiring. And that means connecting with governmental, non-governmental organizations to bring in people with talents, whether they have any type of disability or whether they are with a Portuguese nationality or not. And we work together internally to make sure that we have a team that is fully equipped to make sure that they support them in the hiring process. So, for example, we have trained recruiters that are specialized in hiring people from impact sourcing program, impact workers, but also people that specifically know how to adapt the recruitment process in terms of working with refugees. Maybe there is a difference in access to internet whenever performing online tests or any type of example like that, and how to make sure that we can meet people's needs so that they can perform and show their true skills and their true talent. And that also means working with onboarding processes and teams that are involved in that. So at TP in Portugal, we offer, as part of the employment package, also housing. So that means having the opportunity to live in a room in an apartment that is dedicated to TP employees. And we want to make sure that we offer anyone who wants to have access to that opportunity, but at the same time being sensitive in terms of cultural or religious requirements. So in case of women that we have been speaking about, either women with a certain experience that have made them felt vulnerable, or women that are coming from a culture that they feel more comfortable living with other women alone, we make sure that we also have apartments that are dedicated to women, so that everyone can feel safe, not only in the workplace, but also when they come home. And we have guided tours that some of our teams are offering, where we really show people around their work location, their home location, public transport options, other options in terms of taxi services that we can offer, and also working together with our clients to make sure that everyone has within their working schedules comfortable and safe ways to go to work and come back home safely, and offering them legal support. And in case of refugees, that is, for example, very, very important to make sure that everyone is being supported with having all the documents that they need to feel that they're truly a part of Portugal and able to contribute to the workplace. And I recently had a conversation with one of our refugees that stuck with me, and they told me that fleeing a country can increase a feeling of safety, but there are still circumstances in the new country or connections with their community that can cause discomfort or creating that disbalance in feeling of safety. And taking the parallel to the work environment, it is really important that impact sourcing and onboarding support are also combined with belonging initiatives, with initiatives that help create a culture of psychological safety, and then offering opportunities for all to learn and grow, as Lynn and Andrea have mentioned. So we're having proactive belonging initiatives that really help not only hire, but also develop and retain people to be a part of the workforce. We make sure that we have inclusive processes and environments. So, for example, in all of our sites, we've implemented multi-faith rooms that are there for religious and spiritual exercises that people can do throughout their working day. We make sure that we inform our leaders and coach our leaders on how to offer flexible scheduling to work with people's needs that are work and life combined. But we also focus on having employee networks where we combine people from all over the world come together in Portugal, whether they do that by choice or that they were fleeing from their country, and they really can help each other, advise each other, but also just connect around having this new experience and how that is different, and in some cases also the same for all of them. And then we work with a partner that really offers individual and confidential support. So support in terms of legal, support in terms of fiscal, and support in terms of psychological safety, and for people to find additional support in case they need it. And that really helps. We're seeing that, for example, absenteeism rates are less than 1% when we look into our refugee population. We're seeing here a promotion rate that is exactly in line with our generic promotion rate when we look at refugees, talking about having a career opportunity as well as a safe place to work. And that means that impact sourcing is good for society, it's good for the community, and it's a smart business strategy, especially when paired intentionally with belonging initiatives.
I just wanted to, I love what you said, Bernice, and emphasize on the point that it's just not a matter of about hiring people from disadvantaged groups, but learning how through them how to manage and improve our processes to become a better workplace. It's very important how we handle onboarding, training, and feedback cycles with all types of diversity backgrounds. So I think I just want to highlight that one point because that's a constant learning. I wouldn't say any organization is there yet. It's a constant learning process.
And that's an extremely important point, Andrea. Thanks for pointing that out. We are at the end of this talk. We could go on forever. It was such an inspiration to hear you three. So I would like to thank you all for all of these great initiatives. We can really hear your passion, all of the work you're dedicated to these initiatives to make it happen, all of the thinking process. You all mentioned some analysis, some constant evolution, adaptation of the program to keep improving, all of the partnerships you've been able to build. And I guess I retain several key points from that talk, but what is really important is that impact sourcing is good for the individuals, of course, to which we provide equal opportunities. And that's really about that, providing equal opportunities to people from all backgrounds. It's also very good for the company itself because it really shows value, a company culture, and drives employee engagement, as well as client engagement, which is also a positive side. And last but not least, a positive social and economic impact on the whole communities. So thank you again. And I hope we will hear you more updates very soon on more stories. Thank you.